And we're back. We're
Hey, man,
back.
I don't know what you was trying to do with that intro right there. I don't know what you was trying to do.
I'm getting emotional. That was beautiful.
I was like, wait a minute. This,
Why don't we have a soundboard? We need applause right there.
hey, I was like, oh my goodness. See, Deonne been dibbling and dabbling and tapping on that keyboard today.
Oh,
Well, we had to make up for last week, man. We just jumped in hot last Friday. But yeah, so welcome to another episode of All Star Fandom. This is the Fellowship of Fandom, where we're going to go over the Rings of Power, this whole season 2. We're going to discuss episode 4 today. But before I jump in and introduce you to our illustrious guest, Jen, say hello to the people and where they can find you. We'll get some socials in the top of it and at the end too.
Okay. Well, hey, I'm Jen. I refer to myself as your favorite nerdiqua, and I love all things nerdy, from this show to Star Wars to Marvel to DC, books, my record player. So I'm happy to be back. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so like I said, last week we were on location for Dragon Con. We just binged 3 very long episodes. This one was about an hour, a little over an hour, with credits and everything. But before we jump in and go around, Doc, I didn't let you say anything,
Hey,
man.
They know who I am. Hey,
okay,
what, Doc? You know what I'm saying? Y'all can find me wherever y'all find Deonne. That's where I be.
Yeah, he'll be there. He'll be right there. But what we're going to do, go over a little bit of a synopsis of what happened this episode, and then we'll just dissect it from there, get opinions, and then give our review at the end. So just to start off, and I tried my best to condense this as that's a lot that they jammed into this episode
they really
too.
did, man. In 1 hour.
It felt like three different episodes to me, maybe 4. But just to start it off, so in the Ring of Power season 2, episode 4, we have some characters that face a few pivotal changes. So we start off, and we have Galadriel and Elrond and their team. They venture to Barrow Downs and an ancient burial ground where they are attacked by the Barrow Wights, some undead creatures that we see for the first time that, they have to have to use their own, like their weapons the weapons that were buried. That's the only way they could defeat them. And during the skirmish, she sacrifices herself to protect her companions. Many think to protect the ring, but we can get into that as we go on a little further. But meanwhile, we got the Stranger, another story here. This was the second part. He encounters Tom Bombadil, a mysterious figure who claims to be the eldest in Middle-earth. Tom offers cryptic wisdom, revealing that the Stranger's journey is intertwined with defeating both the Dark Wizard and Sauron. So we get all of that. Then we jump to more, and it's like 4 stories within this hour. So Arondir and Isildur, they search for Theo, and he's been captured by Ents. Their quest reveals a deeper ties to the dark forces ravaging the land. They make promises to the Ents that they have peace, and they rescue Theo. I feel like that ending that part of Theo's journey with Arondir was great, especially how bratty he was last week.
He was grieving. He's grieving.
This is true. Now, this might be my favorite story of the episode. So, in another part of the world, Nori and Poppy are lost, but stumble across Merrimack. He might be one of my favorite new characters too. But together, they travel to the village of Stores, essentially another sort of hobbit civilization, or a new kind of hobbit. Their journey takes a tense turn when they encounter the Dark Wizard's forces, but the village leader helps hide them, and this storyline is going to develop as we continue Nori and Poppy's journey as well. So that was all in episode 4 of this week's Ring of Power episode. So Jen, real quick, I'll let you kick us off. What's your overall, I guess, your highlights and takeaways from this episode this week?
Oh man, there's actually a lot. I loved in seeing Tom Bombadil interact with I'm going to keep calling him Gandalf, and to me the fact that we this is where I'm going to get a little nerdy with the books. this is another confirmation that this is definitely Gandalf, because for anyone who is familiar with Tolkien's books, in the final book, The Return of the King, after the war has been won, Gandalf actually goes and spends a lot of time with Tom Bombadil. They're actually friends, and they spend a lot of time with each other. So, and we don't have a lot of information about Tom aside from what's in the Silmarillion book and some other books. The Silmarillion is really a summary of all of the other books before Lord of the Rings that Tolkien wrote. Plus, you have the letters that Tolkien wrote of different characters and expansions and things like that. So this is really cool. We actually get to see where Gandalf and Bombadil start and how that relationship cultivates, since it was talked about in the final book. But I really loved that moment, and we get to meet Tom, see his character, the type of magic he has, and learn about him in this way. It's just it's so neat. And then the other moment for me that really was touching was when Erendir had that special moment with the Ent where he repents and brings peace among them and makes a new vow to protect the forest. I thought that was such a beautiful moment to redeem him for something that happened in season 1, where he was forced to axe down trees when that's not part of the elven culture.
Yeah.
It was a really beautiful moment, and I just loved how this actor really portrayed the feelings and the tenderness of that moment. And of course, seeing more Harfoots or halflings was fantastic.
Yes.
So, let me ask you this though: Are they halflings? Because they're different. She kept saying they're Stoors. Is that how you pronounce it? Stoors, right?
So I would say that all of them are halflings, only because if you go off the original books, when you meet the hobbits, they're just different families of hobbits. You have the Brandyfoots, the Tooks, the Bag Ends. So I think these are just different sectors of people, different colonies, but they're all of the same race. And going off with some of the context we got from the episode, they got separated somehow, and we learned how the wandering Harfoots became wanderers because of this moment they had with this leader of the Stewards. So unless they do something different where they confirm something in the writing of another episode that signifies differently, I think it's safe to say that they're all Harfoots, but they have different perspectives of that. And this is really foreshadowing of how Hobbiton is going to come to the Shire in Middle Earth.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway from the episode. I was like, oh, so this makes sense. Because for the first season and this last episode, the evolution of the Hobbits, it's not what the Wanderers are. Like, they were eating bugs and stuff too out of the tree. Yeah. They get that, Gandalf, we'll call him. Yeah, we'll call him the stranger or Gandalf.
They're still calling him a stranger. I'm like, that's the end off the gray. I don't know why we're so slow on that buck.
Okay, maybe I'm gonna keep calling him the stranger until they just reveal. I guess it's gonna be like a big reveal.
Okay, I think am I just paranoid when I'm saying this? Because when they were talking, when Nori and Poppy were talking to, when they made it to the stores, they said like he was a giant. Yeah, and she said a grand elf. I was like, that's very close to Gandalf or something like that. Yeah. The way that it was, I watched the captions just so I could be like, oh, that seemed clever. But maybe I'm just paranoid and thinking, I heard Gandalf. I mean,
I understand. Jen, you read all the books, and I didn't. This is kind of why I like watching this, because I'm getting to see like new characters to me jump out. But what brought it to me that he might be Gandalf when he went and tried to break that tree branch. And that tree swallowed him up, because that's the staff he carries. In
it's another foreshadowing.
Yeah. So that's like, oh. So
but Deonne, no, your assumptions are right, because technically, if for anyone who's familiar with the books and the lore, where Gandalf comes from is from Valinor. Valinor sent him for when Sauron is uprising, so he comes from there as well. Which is why he has some distinction can be somewhat elvish.
Yeah, and so I'm looking again. Just to piggyback off of Jen's takeaways real quick. There was a lot in this episode, like I said, with all three stories sort of being it felt it was together yet separate, because there's so many journeys that we got these characters taking. But even with the Tom Bombadil part, I was like, I think I'm gonna like this character a lot. Like he seems, because there's so much to him that, like, even the voice, like Gandalf heard a woman's voice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, is Tom out there, doing karaoke for two people? Or is or is Gandalf hearing something? I don't know. Jen, help me out.
No, Tom Bombadil is actually married. He has a wife in the books. So when I heard the voice, I was like, oh my gosh, yay!
Look, it was either that or that goat was talking.
It was
that little baby goat.
She might have turned herself into a goat. It's like, I'm gonna go wander the hills. I just don't want to get killed by these random masked people, so I'm gonna turn into a goat. I'm gonna go hopping, and if I spot anybody of interest, I'll bring them back. Oh look, I found Gandalf.
Oh look, I found Gandalf. Yeah.
But no, in the books he's actually married. So it was really sweet that they did a nod to his wife from the books. And Tom Bombadil, for anyone who's really into Tolkien literature and all of the lore, he's actually a very beloved character by most people. So when the advertisements start coming out and they announced that Tom Bombadil was going to be in it, a lot of the Tolkien fan community was going nuts. They were so excited for that announcement of this character.
So Doc, what are your we've gone over Jen's highlights. Jen, anything else that you would like to cover that? Because I know you missed something last week, so I want to make sure at least you
do you want to go back to it? I have to correct the record. I rewatched all 3 episodes, and I was so mad because there was so much to talk about, and I was coming off it fresh that I forgot to mention Beric finding Isildur in the opening of 3, and that was a very touching moment. I was so mad through the whole week that I forgot to mention. So I am sorry.
Well, we got it in this week. That was a great scene too. That was the spiders.
That was one negative. The spiders. Oh, I can't stand spiders.
Yeah, see, and Deonne, I don't think Deonne quite understand what I tell her. I'm terrified of spiders. Like that first Lord of the Rings with that giant spider that stuck Frodo in the chest, man. That scared the hell out of me. Oh my goodness. But yeah, the spiders in this one. But for me, my takeaway was first of all, the opening scene. I don't know if y'all are paying attention to the mountains and the beautifuln's and the whole deal of that, right? But y'all know I'm a hopeless romantic. So when my man Isildur was ready, he was about to lay some sugar on old girl, and then her dude decided to still be alive and come out of nowhere.
He decided to still be alive.
Because I was thinking to myself, I was like, because they had just been through something traumatic, and Deonne, I don't care how much you try to hate on my boy Aaron Deere. Hey man, he showed up and showed out when he cut that thing up from the inside, bro. I don't want to hear it.
I'm gonna say this. My favorite part of him this week was his conversation with the Ents. Like I felt
and
like
that too. I was gonna say that was my second takeaway from this. Like how it's like he takes on the weight of the world. I mean, I know he's an elf and he's lived a long time, but he promises people stuff and he sticks with it, and he does seem like he take on a lot of weight on himself to go and fix things. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking to myself, as skillful as he is, I don't know if he can kill all them orcs, man. But I'm pretty sure he'll try. But the way he apologized to the imps, she blessed him with the flower. And then they walked off, and he was like, and when he was telling Theo, well, I got to go, complete some promises I just made. And,
his hair still didn't move.
I saw that much of his ear. I saw that much of his ear.
You saw a lobe.
Not this part. This part.
You saw the lobe.
Yeah. And the moment when they had right then Aaron Deere and Theo, they had their little moment. And he apologized or whatever, and then Theo was like, well, now I gotta go be a man because I made some promises. So because at first I was like, oh, he's gonna go with him on the journey and they finna go on an adventure, and I was like, no, it didn't happen.
Yeah, I didn't think they would either. I didn't think he'd go with them.
Yeah, but confirm it's not him.
It was so much packed into this episode. Like it's hard to just take away like 2 things, because the character Bombadil, I was like, okay, now we got a different. I don't know. Is he a wizard?
He's a wizard of sorts.
Okay,
I would say because he does use
because he
magic.
has
And
magic, right? So
yeah,
and
his magic is unique because a lot of his magic is tied to his singing. That's why he sings so much.
okay.
That makes
So
sense.
now
Poor
I'm
Jen, I'm
grasping
happy
because
you're here.
I was gonna
I'm
tell.
gonna do my best to help.
My thing was, I was like, when he's talking and giving out his advice, it's like Yoda. It's like he says some stuff, and you be like, "Hey man, what does that mean? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" So
He's like, I was supposed to find you, and I was like, I was supposed to find you, wasn't I?
right,
And then another riddle, and then
yeah,
another riddle.
yeah.
Yes.
So, but I enjoyed that character, and of course the other halflings that found out the stores.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, now we got some more halflings, and then they're gonna realize when they come together when Nori and Poppy, and when Nori says to her, "Well, we don't have anywhere to live," and he's like, realize, well, we're the wandering halflings that y'all been looking for, or that separated from the beginning, you know. And I was like, man, it was so much. Like Deonne said, it was about like 5 stories going on at once.
It was a good 4 stories in an
Yeah.
hour. Yeah.
It was a
And
lot to take
they
in.
covered
And
a
can
lot
I
of
say that
Right.
final fight scene with Galadriel? Hey man, she kind of beastly on that
She
thing.
was
What?
walking through him.
She was walking through, sir.
You gotta remember, Galadriel was a commander. and
Yeah, she was.
She
Yeah,
has fought many wars, and it was like
Yeah.
from season 1 when she is at Numenor, and she gives the lesson to the young cadets before they go off to
Yeah.
war in season to battle into season 1, and all these young little pups are like, "Oh, I can take her." I'm like, "You have no idea who
No.
you are."
But then but what I was thinking, I was like, what if she had kept the ring on and then fought them? Do y'all think she could have just defeated all of them right then and went on about her business instead of giving Elrond the ring to, as some people say, to protect the ring or to protect them, the group, so they can get to where they're going?
It's both.
It's both. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking if she would have kept that ring on and fought those guys, she would have been able to see more. You know what I'm saying?
I
Or
would
maybe that's just my thinking, because when Sauron actually has the ring and can control everything, he can see more, right?
I mean, the rings are interesting because with Sauron's ring, if you recall the original movie, there's actually an edit in there that they a scene that they cut. It's not a full scene where you would have to go back and look at the still. Sauron, when he's making the One Ring, actually has a knife in his back hand.
Mm-hmm.
How he makes the One Ring is he has the metal material in his hand. He stabs his hand and infuses his blood into the one. This is why it's so powerful and why it's out of all the rings, because he uses his blood to finish making the ring, and that's how his essence is in the ring. And why a lot of people, it's the reason why no one wants to take the ring, because if they wear the ring like Galadriel or Gandalf or Elrond, it's really going to corrupt them more than any other ring that's been created. It's because how it was used, how it was made with
how it was created. So
Correct.
Tell me something, because we haven't talked about this point. That sword that opened the gate, that you have to put your blood on that sword, right? And it turns into a sword. That sword that
from
Theo
season
found,
1,
right?
Yeah.
From season 1. So after, what is that a part of that ring that Sauron makes? Is that what that ring is made from?
I would say at this point we don't know, because we haven't seen the creation of the One Ring, but it's definitely, it could be considered a foreshadowing of what's to come, because that's how basically Sauron's MO, how he with the other rings and him using his own blood, that could be a foreshadowing to what is to come. But to go back to your point with your question, I think if Galadriel would have kept the ring on, it's actually a really good question to think, like, if it would have enhanced her abilities even more. Because we actually had the moment where it actually healed one of her comrades from an arrow wound. And it was actually used for good. It caused healing. So I don't think that thought is far-fetched at all, but I think it showed. I say it's both. I think she was protecting the ring because she doesn't want the orcs to know what was made. But then I think she was also protecting her comrades, because if what's his name? I'm forgetting his name now.
Elrond?
No, the Anatar.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
wondering if Anatar would have saw the ring and would have gotten a sense of what it was.
Oh yeah.
What that would mean for her and how they might try to manipulate her or take the ring to use it against Sauron, because it's also a confirmation that Sauron is definitely back, because they really don't know. They're trying to investigate to find out still. But again, to get back to your main question about the ring, I think it's really possible because of what we saw with the healing of the arrow and some of the foresight abilities that's enhancing Galadriel's vision.
But
I would say so.
For the guy to sense that ring is so powerful, wouldn't that, like, he would have to have another sense about him? Being, I guess, is he considered a dark elf now? Because he's not necessarily an orc, and he's not necessarily an elf. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he's like in between.
I would say he's a dark elf. Yes.
So, but he has some type of sensibilities about him where he can sense things. So you think he would have sensed the ring if she would have kept it and tried to fight all of them?
I would say yes, only because he's been around Sauron before, and he has been exposed to him, and he knows what Sauron is. So it wouldn't be surprising to me that if he would have seen the ring, and the fact that we're already hearing with Galadriel the voice that we've heard other times with Sauron's manipulation and how he makes the rings, it being used, I'm pretty sure he could have put 2 and 2 together eventually, and that still might happen. I mean,
right.
We have more episodes to go, and going off the trailers we've seen with the upcoming battles and how Sauron is really manipulating things. You know, I think it's only a matter of time that the rings become knowledge to Anatar.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and now I'm just thinking about how powerful Sauron's ring was, because now you have me thinking about like the first Fellowship. He was just waving them people out of the way, like
one hand. And I'm talking not just like 3 or 4 people, like whole lines of soldiers. Boom. And you remember how big he was? Like, you remember how big he was compared to everyone? He looked like a giant.
This is how we know his form is going to change again, because the form he's in now is not going to be the form we see.
His final form,
And then, I don't know if Deonne caught this. You know that crown that he was wearing? You remember when they pulled the Caesar on him in the first episode?
That was the same. Yeah,
when they pulled the Caesar on him, I like that.
I said,
I mean, that
same crown. And they look like, and I asked about that sword because that part of that sword that Theo stuck in his arm, it looked like the crown. That's why I asked about that. So
it looks like
I don't know if
goes
y'all
together, right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, so when he stuck it in the blood and then it turned into a sword and he protected himself, and I was like, man, that looks just like that crown that Sauron was getting ready to have placed on his head when the guy started stabbing him in the face. So I just thought it was. I mean, that was my connection, trying to connect all the dots, you know.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good attempt. Absolutely. That's a good catch. A fan theory that's still talked about is that Theo might become one of the men who wears one of the 9 rings and becomes corrupted and becomes a wraith.
So he might become one of the kings.
He's and become a wraith.
He might become one of the wraiths because he has the experience with the knife already, which is pretty significant. And the fact that he's now taking a leadership role, and there is really no king. They might, and these people may decide that they want a king, and they may make Theo a king because the experience he has with his mom. He technically has the friendship of the elves, so it's a good connection.
That would be really interesting.
Because I still want to know who he turns out to be.
Right.
That's where I'm at. Or maybe
because you're trying to understand.
I'm not sure.
To come in and just say you are the father.
Well, I'm saying he has to be important to the story to still be in the story. You know what I'm saying?
I completely agree. And so far with the fan theory of season 1 of him possibly becoming a wraith, I think that might happen, but we'll see. I really don't know.
That never crossed my mind, but that's a really good.
But can I say What are they called? Deonne, those ghost people. What are they called in this episode?
Oh, the Barrow White, the Barrow
Let me
Whites,
tell you something,
right?
man. When them chains came out, it was dark in my room. I had to sit up.
Okay,
What?
okay.
Them chains
Here's,
came out and snatched that boy.
here's a question: was this episode like just really dark? Not like dark in
It was
themes,
super dark.
but
It was
just
dark.
like
Even in
yeah.
filming, it seemed like it was darker than the other
Well,
3 episodes.
well, no, I think this whole season so far is so much darker than season 1. I mean, like the stuff we've seen on screen, literally
Yeah.
someone getting
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
but that too. I was just thinking about like just visually too.
That's what I was
It's
saying.
just
Like visually, it was dark.
when Aaron was
No,
in the forest, it was like where like I
But they
sweated
were
a bit.
in.
Like,
But they are in the dark forest. Am I correct? That's where they are. That's where they're traveling through, right? To get to.
that's where the Ents were, right?
Yeah. So that's
I
where.
don't know if it's
But I
classified
don't know
as
if
the
this is
dark
it.
forest. I think it's. I would have to look at the map in the show. It's a
Mhm.
forest that is in between Lindor and to where they're going to see Celebrimbor, where
Celebrimbor, yeah.
Celebrimbor lives. That's that wood between the two.
Okay.
So I think what this is showing, and to your point, it is getting darker.
Mhm.
And I think that's also where the other writing is coming into play, the show where we're progressing toward, because now they're discovering Sauron has been here and he's using his dark forces or dark magic to do things, because we get that basically last episode when we saw those riders from the High King being sent out, like, what were those chains? Well, now we know they went through that area to go try to get to Celebrimbor.
And because I was asking that question, I'm sorry, Deonne. I was asking that question last time. I don't know if y'all heard me. I said, why didn't the king send somebody to go and warn Celebrimbor about, hey, Sauron might be coming back? This guy, he might seem like a friend. And then, lo and behold, they walk into the forest, and who do they find? The men that the king sent. And I was like, well, that answers my own question. I said, it kind of sucks for them, but I was thinking to myself, I hope they can get out of this situation. Of course they did.
A very kingly thought that you had there, man. Like, man, I need to send some forces or send someone to warn him. This takes a long time to get anywhere, though. But good grief. But I think I'm just echoing the exact same takeaways from this one. I enjoyed this episode a lot. Like I said, the stores, and now I know like how we sort of get to the Shire. I love how when they walk in or pop in. When they walk in and say, it just seems unnatural. I was like, nah, y'all gonna be living nice in the next few years, man. like have homes built within a month.
Yeah.
That's really dope. Yeah, in a hole. I mean, and I think I was really waiting to see that story progress a bit more, just because like, man, they're wondering where does the Shire reside? Like, where do they find it? And when do they find it? So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
I think we're gonna get it. I mean, the fact that we are getting the stewards and they brought up that history and lore of another sector of the Harfoots that will be known as hobbits or halflings. I think that's gonna be really cool to see, like the Shire coming into being and Gandalf visiting. Because one of the things I was talking with another friend who is a huge Lord of the Rings fan, I asked her, who do you think Poppy's descendant is? Because
I was gonna ask the same question.
I'm like, who's Poppy's descendant's gonna be? Or Nori?
Or Nori's descendant.
Like which branch of the hobbits are we gonna get?
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
What if they're all like Tooks? Like whatever. like it's not even the Baggins.
It would be so funny if the Tooks came from Nori or Poppy. I'm gonna be laughing so hard.
Oh my goodness.
But no, I love this episode. We can go into sort of like just overall reviews. I think we've echoed a few of the same highlights and takeaways from this episode. Again, I really enjoyed this one. So I'll just start it off. I love this one. Out of the 4, because like we talked about last week, the 3 set the table for where we're getting now, and set the tone and set all of that for where we are now. So for me, at this moment for episode 4, I was like, now we can start those journeys. Like Gandalf breaks off from Nori and Poppy. So here's his journey until they meet up again. We got 2 new stories there too, right? And then we get Arendir. We get his story as that elf who's like a protector now. So that's dope. We see the the Dark Wizard too.
Yeah. And is that Saruman? Is that Saruman? That's not Saruman.
It's a different wizard. Saruman is good when he does enter the story. Like when you see him in The Hobbit, he has not been corrupted by Saruman yet.
Okay.
Or Sauron yet. So when we do see him, he's actually going to start out good because he's going to be of the white, which is a higher level than Gandalf the Grey, which is why when Gandalf in the original stories comes back, takes that position because of the fall of him. So but yeah, no, he'll start out as good.
Okay, good. Well, okay. Because I was that was going to be my question when we first started. I was like, who is this Dark Wizard? And he got these guys with the mask.
He looks very familiar. Like I was like, if all that goes white instead of if all that hair goes white, we're like, I know who you are.
Yeah,
I thought that.
Okay, I'm just glad I wasn't the only person thinking. I was like, well, it's the Dark Wizard. We knew him. We know him as a Dark Wizard. I mean, because anybody can play your friend before they turn dark. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, but
no, I believe this is a different wizard. So it's going to be interesting though, how they bring him in, and I'm wondering when they're going to.
Yeah, he's sort of just sitting back watching the action and sort of sending them. He's Thanos from like the first Avengers movie, right? We're just sitting and waiting until he puts that thing up and says he has to do it himself. Like that's where we are at this point. But no, I love this episode. I thought this was a really good one. We got some action in it. We got some character development, which I love. I just want to see where those stories end and where they start and end. But let speculation begin for the rest of the season, because I feel like we did that last week. We're definitely embracing this week.
Yeah,
exactly. We're definitely embracing speculation. But Jen, overall sort of review of episode 4.
Overall, I'm enjoying it. I love the different stories, the new characters we're getting, how it's really adding more flavor to the story. As we just said, the assumptions we're making and the possible pathways we're going to go. I really don't have any negatives about this episode at all. I really feel like I truly feel like with this show, it's going to be hard to find negatives because we're moving the story along, but then as they're introducing new characters, they're still building at the same time. We're getting hints of where we're going, but then they're still building. So it's like, okay, I will just keep watching.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't think, and I'll ask a question to y'all. The story doesn't feel the shows don't feel convoluted at all to me. Mm-hmm. It feels like everybody has their role and they're playing it and their story too. When we went through it, it felt like, okay, we have 4 different stories an hour, but each story felt, I don't know, it didn't feel like it was too much. You know what I mean?
I'm thinking
what do you think?
I was gonna say, I'm thinking that's probably how they might just play this season, having in each episode having these separate stories. They did that kind of like with the first season, but like we were saying earlier, like first season kind of got a little slow. But I think this season, like with this episode here, you notice you didn't see the Queen, you didn't see Disa, you didn't see the elf or the dwarves. Or
there's like 4 more stories somewhere else.
So it's 4 more stories. So I'm thinking maybe episode 5 they go to the Queen and see what's happening there, and with the betrayal of her cousin, how he took the crown, when the eagle came down or whatever, and then they talk about Doran.
I question that moment.
I think Doran we all do, Jen.
So I'm thinking, and then we'll probably see Sauron in the next episode with him and Celebrimbor, what they're doing with those rings that he's crafting after he put his hands on them. I'm thinking that's what we're going to get in episode 5. But as far as this episode, my overall review is I thought it was a great episode. I enjoyed it. It keeps my attention. so to speak. You know, and you, Deonne, you know me. You know I get bored really quick.
You'll tap out quick, man.
Yeah, and I'll be like, you know what, I'm done. Yeah. So if it keeps my attention, and I really like a good story. That's what I tell everybody. I love a good story, and as long as the story is good, and for me the music is good, and it's moving along, man, I'm enjoying watching it, and I'm wanting to see where it's gonna go, especially the relationship between Tom and we're gonna call him Gandalf. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that plays out, and I really want to see.
Okay, so real quick, not to cut my apologies for cutting you off. What if it turns out not to be Gandalf? How do we feel about that?
Man, but here's
if
my
somehow
I'm gonna ask the expert. Wait a minute, I'm gonna ask the expert. Here's my thing, because
I'm not an expert.
As far as all of the Lord of the Rings that I know about, I've only known 5 wizards, right? So, and Gandalf is a huge part of the Lord of the Rings. So, and he was the first one we saw in gray. So, and now he comes, and now he has the gray. And what tipped it for me, which why I'm gonna stick with this, and I don't think he can be anyone else. When he tried to take that branch, and it looked exactly like the staff he had been walking with when he came to the Shire with the fireworks, remember? And he had the staff with him. Like, does that not look like that branch he tried to break?
I think that's the thing. He's searching for his staff at the moment. So that's the
even
journey that he's on too.
Even when he picked up that regular branch and made that huge tornado or whatever, you know what I'm saying? I guess it's like his power. I'm not gonna say his power comes from that, but it maybe enhances his power, which is why he needs a staff.
It's a conduit.
Yeah,
it's a conduit.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that's Gandalf, man. If it turns out to be, if it turns out not to be Gandalf, I don't know.
Well, no, I mean it's a good question, but then with again just going off the context clues we have received from him, you know, especially where they ended season 1 and he says just follow your nose. Only Gandalf says that. Like, that's a big indicator. No one else says that but Gandalf. And then when he had the dream and we saw an image of the staff that is Gandalf's staff. And then the fact that he has the relationship with Tom Bombadil. And then again, from what I said earlier, in the books, Gandalf hangs out with Bombadil.
With them,
Like they have a relationship. So it's like, you're setting it up to be him. Right. Just say it's him. I mean, but if you're doing all this building and going, oh, by the way,
but y'all, this is the crazy thing, though. This is the crazy thing. Like they're writing this or they're filming this for people who don't know Lord of the Rings. I don't know if y'all paying attention to that part. Like, this is like an introduction for people who don't know Lord of the Rings, like who haven't seen those 6 movies that we've seen, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. You know what I'm saying? So this is a great introduction. So yeah, of course they're going to keep calling him the Stranger because this will push people to go and watch The Fellowship of the Rings, Return of the King, etc.
Even reading the books. I mean, for anyone watching, if you don't mind me doing just a little selfish plug, the books are massive. I would recommend that if you don't want to sit and read what I have, if you struggle to sit and read, I actually would recommend the audiobooks. The actor Andy, who does Gollum in the original films, narrates all of the books, both the original trilogy, the Silmarillion, all the other books that have been written. He actually narrates all of them, and they're very, very enjoyable if you want to listen instead of looking at text. So
so that's Doc, you got some homework, man. So go ahead and grab that book because you were.
See, that would have been great when I was working offshore and I had those 10 and 16-hour rides.
I know, right? And then it wouldn't have taken a season and 4 episodes to figure out who.
Real quick, I want to go back to something we touched on but we didn't talk about. If that's okay. So, Elrond and Galadriel's relationship out the gate. The tension between the two of them.
I said that. I thought I said that last.
No, you did. You did, and I wanted to talk about it, but then we went off.
Because I keep telling y'all, like Deonne keep tripping. I keep telling him I'm a hopeless romantic, and I'm like, I thought they were an item
No, they're not.
First.
Nuh-uh.
That's what I thought, and I was
They're
like,
cousins, I
but they
believe.
had, yeah, okay. So I was like, it's some tension there. It's like, and it's not like jealousy or anything. It's like you won't listen, and I'm trying to help you type tension. But she's like, I've been a commander too, and you won't listen, and I'm trying to help you. It's like they're both stubborn and they're butting heads, but they're trying to accomplish the same goal. You know,
It's a very interesting dynamic, and I love how these actors, in my opinion, artists, are really demonstrating this new dynamic between the two of them, because the fact that it was revealed that Galadriel basically brought Sauron back, it's basically a betrayal to all elves, that she had a part of it, even though she was deceived. So Elrond having all these different emotions of feeling betrayed by Galadriel, that she had a hand in bringing back their enemy when they thought he was destroyed. And then the fact that she was a commander of the elven armies and a commander for a long time, basically getting a demotion.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I thought it was fair when the king said, no, he's commander, you're lieutenant. I'm like, that's actually fair.
Yep.
At this point in time, yes.
Yep.
That's
You showed me you cannot make the smart decisions.
That is very fair. I mean, because come on, like if we take, I say this in my Star Wars rooms when it comes to certain contexts. If we take Lord of the Rings out of it and just look at it from a military perspective, anyone who's in the military knows if someone screws up that bad, there's going to be a consequence of some kind. They're not just going to be like, oh, it's okay. Right. No, there's going to be a serious consequence. And it's a matter of weighing up, okay, you really know the enemy. We didn't listen to you. You did try to warn us. So we do need you, but you can't stay in that role either.
No.
Because of even though, yes, you were deceived, we can understand that, it still brought him back.
Yeah.
So now you have that dynamic where now her cousin is now the new commander. She's the lieutenant, and she has to learn to follow new leadership, and that's another power struggle. So there's so many things that are happening between these two at the same time, and then the mistrusting of the ring with Elrond, rightly so. But then it's like, well, it actually was used to heal somebody because he's actually fine.
And then I was gonna say another thing about that ring, because as Jen mentioned in the last episode, Elrond does end up wearing a ring. So my thing is, if it doesn't make him evil, maybe if you're just inherently good, you can use the ring for good, right?
With I would say with the elven rings, because Sauron did not touch them. He didn't touch the He didn't touch the mithril. He didn't touch any other type of material. He just manipulated and gave ideas, and they were made. So these don't have such a stronger influence like the other rings will have, definitely. But then there's still some things tied to it. But it's like with the character from the last episode said, it's like, look what he made. I mean, look, there is power in them. Right. But he basically said the same thing. Like, they can be used for good. And if you really think they're leading them astray, then help them to stay on the right path and get back on the right path. Yeah. So I think with the elven rings, there's more capability of good being used with those three than the others, definitely.
Okay.
Well, man, I mean, I think if there's any, Jen, I want to throw it back to you real quick, so you can get, if there's anything else from this one, just to make sure. No, just to make sure, because last week, like you said, you didn't get to talk about that, so I wanted to make sure this was a good episode. I like this one. This was a good one this week.
Oh, this was great. I mean, like with everything you said at the top of the show, we have 4 stories happening at the same time. I think it was really structured really well. I didn't feel overwhelmed. It wasn't hard to keep up and not understand what was going on at all. And I'm really excited to see episode 6 and what's going to happen next. So, because we left the episode at an interesting moment. Now Galadriel and Anatar are together. technically it's the two people that betrayed Sauron, the woman he wanted to woo and be with and rule, and the bestie he wanted to have that said no.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to find out when the ex-bestie and the woman who denied him have joined forces, how he's going to react.
Yeah.
Wait till he sees them. Yeah,
oh,
wait till
together.
Oh, yeah. Doc, anything left for you on the table, man?
I'm looking forward to episode 5. I'm looking forward to the development of this story. I'm enjoying the writing that's going on
and the
this,
music.
Yes, and the music. I'm enjoying it. You know, just like I enjoyed the last season. So I'm just looking forward to seeing what's coming next. Like, I'm excited. This is how I wanted to feel when they dropped the Cape Crusader. You know what I'm saying? And they just dropped all 10 episodes in one night.
10 there. Take them. Like
so, enjoy binging.
Yeah, I know, right? And just leave. Just I'm out. Goodbye. Well, that was our I'll put a button on it. Really enjoyed this episode. This was probably my favorite of the season. Just finally seeing where those cooked meals have gone. You know what I mean? Or where they're starting. So but yeah, so Jen, I'm gonna let everybody know where to find you. And again, thanks for joining us this week. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your expert knowledge. We do.
I'm not an expert. I just happen to know the answers to the questions you ask.
It says it right there. So there's the pressure.
I did not type this. Well, thank you for having me on again. I'm really enjoying hanging out with you both and talking about the Rings of Power. You can find me at my handles that are just right here, at Nerdiqua, at rocking_your_bald. I really need to change that. I say that every time. On Instagram, TikTok, Clubhouse, where I have my Star Wars fan group, Star Wars Universe Club, where we do book club and show reviews, also spoiler heavy over there on Fridays at 8:30. So you should drop on by and hang out.
Well, Jen, we really appreciate it. Make sure our Lord of the Ring expert is going to be here next week. For us. Yeah, Rubens, you did such a great job closing out, man. Once before, go ahead, man. Tell them where we can be found.
Y'all can find us on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, and Instagram at All Star Fandom, YouTube All Star Fandom Show. Please come follow us. Thank you to everybody that we met last week at Dragon Con. It was such a blast.
Big shout out.
And maybe we might be around at Science Con in San Antonio. You never know. And thank y'all for tuning in for another All-Star.
You're saying something I don't know about.
There's a thing up in New York called New York Comic Con. And they're going on tour.
We're going to figure it out.
We're going to figure it out. So thank y'all for tuning in, and we appreciate y'all. We love y'all, and we'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.